we ask that you turn off your video. And if you would like an appointment with Maria, I'm going to put my information in the chat. You can reach out to me, and it doesn't have to be on the ABLE program. It could be on any other subject, such as public benefits. The materials will be provided to, to Helen, and anything we use will also send to Helen so she can share with all the participants. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Maria. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Good morning, everyone. So today we are going to learn some stuff. We're going to learn about the ABLE program. It's a program that's available in many states. States can opt to have this kind of program. California opted to have this program in 2018, and their version of the ABLE program is called, of course, CalABLE. So we're gonna talk about the ABLE Act, the basics of the ABLE program, and then the second half of the training, we're actually gonna look at California's ABLE program. And along the way, you're going to have a bunch of resources that you can use after this training to get more information. And you will get this PowerPoint after this training and anything else we talk about. Before I talk about ABLE, the ABLE program, I want to talk about the resource limits for SSI and for the Medi-Cal programs that look at resources where you have to have limited resources. There are more than 40 programs in Medi-Cal programs in California. Some some programs look at resources, others do not. So it's important to know this so that you understand why the ABLE program is really great, especially for people who are receiving SSI. So if you're an individual on SSI, you can't have more than $2,000 in countable resources. So and there are things that don't count as resources. So the home that you own and live in is not a resource. One vehicle, no matter the value, is not a resource. A life insurance policy of less than $1,500 is not a resource. Your wedding ring is not a resource. The things in your home, like your furniture, your appliances, etc., your clothes, not a resource. But there are things that are counted as a resource, including any money that you have in the bank. So the limit is $2,000 for people on SSI, individuals and applying or receiving SSI. And if you're a couple applying for SSI, the limit is $3,000. There's another program that's administered by the Social Security Administration, which is called the Social Security Disability Insurance Program. It's very, very different than the SSI program. It's based on taxes you paid towards your Social Security retirement, your Medicare, and should you become disabled before your retirement age, you might be eligible for SSDI. That program doesn't have a resource limit. And like I mentioned before, there are Medi-Cal programs that do, just like SSI. And when you get SSI, you automatically get Medi-Cal. So that's one way to get Medi-Cal. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page with regard to resource limits, because now we're going to see why this program is such a great program. So let's talk about the ABLE Act. The ABLE Act came about in 2014. It's federal law, and it allows states to create tax advantage savings and investment programs for people with disabilities. The money that someone puts in an ABLE account does not affect a person's eligibility for SSI or any Medi-Cal program that looks at resources. And this is really important because it means that you can have more than $2,000 in resources if you have an ABLE account. And we're going to talk more about the particulars of that. And the money in your ABLE account can be used to pay for lots of things. They're called excuse me a moment, I'm getting it here, qualified disability expenses. So you can, for example, use the money to buy a house, to pay for your mortgage, to pay for your utilities, to pay for food, get an education, modify a vehicle, go on vacation, and the money has to be spent on the person who owns the account, and that's the person with the disability. Someone asked in a training whether the money could be used for the family to go on a vacation. Well, you can use the money to pay for the vacation expenses of the person who owns the ABLE account, but not for the rest of the family, because the money in the ABLE account is to be paid for things for the beneficiary. Although I had another question in a training about whether a parent of a minor child could use the money in the ABLE account to buy a home. And I reached out to the CalABLE program, and they in fact said, yes, that's possible. So that was a really good information to have. So we have currently 43 states participating in ABLE. It's voluntary. States can decide they don't want to have this program. And there are a number of states that allow non-residents to open up an ABLE account. So say, for example, I'm a California resident, and New York allows me to open up an ABLE account in their state. So I can go to the first link that you see here, and you can find out which states allow non-residents to open up an ABLE account. And by the way, you can only have one ABLE account. So you can't open up an ABLE account in California and another one in Hawaii, another one in Washington. You can't. You have to decide what state you want to open up your ABLE account. Now, if you want to compare the investment options in the different states that you can open up an ABLE account, if you want to see what their expenses are, etc., you can compare states by using the second link here. So you can put in, compare California with Washington, with, New York, and see what you like. See if there's anything that you like about one program more than the other. And if you want to look up a certain program, like let's say the California program, you can go to the third link here, and it'll take you, you can look at the California program, you can look at the New York program, you can look at any other state program to see what they offer. So when you're going to consider, what state to open up your ABLE account, and you want to figure out what kinds of documents they're going to need to open up an account. By the way, when you open up an account in California, it's online. There is no physical place to open up an ABLE account in California. It's online. You can't walk into a bank and say, I want to open up an ABLE account. They're going to look at you and say, what? We don't know what you're talking about. The other thing you're going to want to do is look at their investment offerings. California has 4 investment choices, and we're going to go through those when we talk about California's ABLE program. And the fees to maintain the account. Each state has its own fees. And so you'll want to look at that, and you'll want to look at other requirements that are unique to the state that you're considering. There's more information on this link about this. Okay, so I've mentioned California's program. a couple of times now, at least. California is, CalABLE is California's ABLE program, started in 2018. It generally mirrors the federal act, the ABLE Act, and it's administered through the California State Treasurer's Office. So you could go to this link and you'll find information on CalABLE, how to open up an account. And when we start talking about CalABLE, we're actually going to go to that website so you can see it. So, so this is where it all happens in California. I'm going to stop right now to make sure that we're all on the same page about what I've said so far. Does anyone have a question? Does anyone need any clarification?
There are no questions in the chat. If you have a question, you can either unmute yourself or raise your hand.
Okay, so let's talk about, I guess, the important stuff, right? So when you open an ABLE account in most states, the maximum amount of money that you can put in a year is $15,000. There are some states like Alaska, which allows you to put a little more, and Hawaii, which allows you to put a little less than the $15,000 a year. Now, if you are employed and you don't participate in your employer's retirement program, you can put additional money into your ABLE account every year. So what you can contribute on top of the $15,000 a year is the lesser of the amount equal to your annual gross salary, or $12,760. This is the federal poverty level for 2021, and it will change for 2022. So what does that mean? Let's say that I'm working, I have an ABLE account, I've put in my $15,000 for the year. And by the way, anyone can put money into my ABLE account. It's not just me. So, and I don't participate in my employer's retirement program. And I'm going to use the $12,760 because that's the lesser of one of these two. So I can save in my ABLE account $15,000, which I'm allowed to have, plus another $12,000 up to $12,760. So $27,760 per year. That's pretty good. Any questions about this? Okay, so I need you to be, we all need to be on the same page because I'm going to talk about some other things and I want to make sure we all understand.
Maria,
So,
there is one question, and it's not really, so it's basically the question is, will you be discussing how someone in self-determination program can use CalABLE?
Anyone in any program can use ABLE. I mean, self-determination through the regional center, it's just a way of saving money, tax-free, a way to save money, especially if you are on SSI or Medi-Cal, where resources are counted, that allows you to save a lot more than you could under the general rules. And the money in the ABLE account, as we will see later on, can be used for a lot of things. So with self-determination, you have a budget, right? And that budget will go towards whatever, you know, is approved through the regional center. And but that's different. That budget is for other things. The money in the ABLE account can be spent on other stuff, even stuff that is not in your self-determination budget.
Thank you, Maria. We do have a question here. Why is there a limit per year for the ABLE account?
Because that's the way they wrote the legislation. There's a limit per year, but I want to talk a little bit more about how much you can have in your account total. Like, let's say I open an ABLE account this year, I have $15,000. Next year, I can add another $15,000. The next year, I can add another $15,000. But it's going to be the total amount that I can have in my ABLE account will depend on whether I'm on SSI or not. And so let me go to that because this is important to know. Now, anyone can contribute into my ABLE account. I can have family put money into my ABLE account, friends, strangers, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And states set limits for the total allowable ABLE savings. So there are states that say the most you can have in your ABLE account is $235,000. California is one of the states that has the maximum allowable in your ABLE account, which is $529,000. So, you know, I could add 15,000 every year into I'm not on SSI, and I'm adding $15,000 to my ABLE account year after year after year after year after year. When I get close to $529,000, the CalABLE program is going to say to me, oops, you're getting too close. Remember, you can't go past the allowable ABLE savings amount. So that's the way it works. Now, it's a little different if you have SSI. And let's talk about what that rule is. If you have SSI, you can have up to $100,000 in your ABLE account. It includes contributions and earnings that you have in your CalABLE account. And I can tell you that is a heck of a deal compared to the traditional rule under SSI that you can, as an individual receiving SSI, you can't have more than $2,000 in countable resources. If I didn't have an ABLE account, how am I going to save to buy anything, right? I can't. It's not possible. I'm not allowed to have more than $2,000 in countable resources. But if I'm on SSI and I have an ABLE account, I can have up to $100,000 in my ABLE account. I can use that money to buy a home, to buy a car, to spend it on things that I would never be able to do if I didn't have an ABLE account. But let's say that if you exceed $100,000 in your ABLE account, although California will remind you as you're getting close to the 100,000 that you're getting close, your SSI will be suspended, not terminated. Medi-Cal continues, that's not a problem. And you're going to have to spend down the money in your ABLE account so that it falls below the $100,000. And once that happens, your SSI is reinstated. And if it takes you more than 12 months to spend down that ABLE account, that's okay. You're not going to be terminated from your SSI, because under the traditional rule, for people who don't have ABLE, if you go over your resource limit and your SSI is suspended for 12 continuous months, on the 13th month, your SSI terminates and you have to reapply for SSI. So I'm going to stop right now to make sure we all understand the special rule about the limit that you can have if you have SSI.
There are a couple of questions in the chat, Maria, but I think you're going to answer some of those questions later on. There is one here, the report. Does the individual report to SSI their monthly income before they deposit into the CalABLE account. Should they also let SSI know that they have a CalABLE account to, so SSI knows not to deduct their benefits?
Yeah. First of all, SSI will know that you have an ABLE account, but you should report everything to us, changes and that kind of thing. So you should report that there's an ABLE account. And the SSI program will get information from the ABLE program about what's in your account and so forth and so on. You don't have to report to SSI every time you spend from your ABLE account or put money into your ABLE account. You don't have to do that. So you should let the SSI program know you have an ABLE account, but ABLE and SSI, CalABLE, and for example, if you open your account in California, CalABLE and the SSI program will be communicating.
Maria, there is another question. Can someone who receives SSI and receives funds from a lawsuit or inheritance, can those funds go to an ABLE account?
Up to $15,000 a year you can put into the ABLE account. But remember, that becomes a income in the month that you receive it. It doesn't avoid that you will be overpaid for that month, right? But you can put it in your ABLE account and it won't affect resources. Another thing you might want to think about if you receive an inheritance, for example, and it's a large amount, you might put money into your ABLE account, up to the maximum. And then you might want to think about maybe a special needs trust or a pool trust, which costs a lot less, and it's like a special needs trust. So, there are, because if any money or assets in a special needs trust, if written properly, will also not affect your eligibility for SSI and for Medi-Cal.
Thank you, Maria.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and continue to talk about the general rules. And as I've mentioned before, money that's deposited into an ABLE account by a third party, someone not the ABLE account holder, the person with a disability, is not counted as income. Under the traditional SSI rules, for example, if my mom gives me money, cash in hand, that is income to me that I need to report to the SSI program, and that will affect my monthly amount for that month. But with an ABLE account, it won't count as income. So anyone can put money into my ABLE account. It will not count as income for me. Also, this is a really important concept that I'm going to talk about, and there's a lot more information. There's a link here from, there's Justice and Aging put together a publication on in-kind support and maintenance. And it's a complicated area, and the facts of each case are really, really important. So I'm going to describe what this is generally. And if you want more information, you should go to that publication. And if you still have any questions about in-kind support and maintenance, you can reach out to us and we can talk about your particular situation. So as an adult, when you are receiving SSI and you live with other people, the SSI program is going to require that you or look into whether you're paying your fair share of food and or shelter. What does that mean? So if you're living with other people and you share with the food, they're going to ask you, how much do you pay for shelter? And for shelter, it includes, there's a very specific definition: mortgage, rent, property taxes, utilities, gas, electricity, water, trash, not phone, and for food. So they're going to ask you, how much do you spend? How much does the household spend on shelter expenses? How much does the household spend on food? They add those up and they divide that by the number of people in the house. That becomes the fair share for the SSI recipient. If the person is not paying, let's say that the fair share comes out to $1,000. I'm an SSI recipient. My fair share of food and shelter is $1,000, but I only get $940 in SSI. And that's all. I don't have any more income. So I am not meeting my fair share of food and shelter. So what happens? I'm going to get a letter from Social Security saying, the SSI program saying, oh, so you're not paying your fair share of food and shelter. Therefore, we're going to reduce the amount of SSI that you're going to get every month by, and there are two formulas. One of them is like by $280. So rather than getting $940 in SSI, I'm now going to get, subtract 240 from that, and that's what I'm going to get in SSI. Why am I talking about this? Because you can use the money in your ABLE account to pay for towards your food and shelter. So let me this is really important information. I'll tell you a little story about a client of mine. Father and son live together, and father lives in his own home owned, and the property taxes are really high. So son gets SSI, and there's no way that he can meet fair share of food and shelter. So what dad did is he opened up an ABLE account. So, and every month he would take money out of the ABLE account for rent, and he would, take it out that month from the ABLE account and pay himself, right? Well, son through the account would pay for that. He did that, and he went to the Social Security office and talked about what he had done. And staff at Social Security would say some staff said to him, well, you can't do that. You can't use your ABLE account to meet your fair share, your son to meet his fair share of food and shelter. And others said, well, we don't know. This is such a new program. We're not quite sure. So I said to him, let's file for a hearing, because you can do this. And I also said to him, you should reach out to your US congressperson in your district and have them help us get an appointment with someone at Social Security who knows about this. Well, he filed for a hearing and worked with his US congressperson to get a phone appointment with a representative, which we had. And the representative said, yes, you're able to do that. And he required from the father the statements from the ABLE program showing that the money was coming out to pay for the rent, and also from the bank account to, because his son's SSI was deposited into a bank account, and statements from the bank showing that money was being taken out to pay for food and shelter. So not only was he told, yes, you could do this, but the son was owed money from the SSI program because they had taken out, money for in-kind support and maintenance. So it's really important that you know this, that you can use the ABLE account to pay for food and shelter so that you're not dinged with in-kind support and maintenance. The POMS that you see there, this is instructions that the Social Security workers look at when they're doing their work. And this POMS here talks about the ABLE program. At the end of the presentation, there's a link, a live link that will take you directly to those instructions, and it talks more about ABLE. I'm going to stop right now to make sure we're all on the same page. Any questions that you have about what I've just said?
I don't see any questions in the chat, Maria.
Okay. Now, money in your ABLE account will also not affect federal housing assistance, CalFresh in California, the free application for federal student aid, Medicare or Medicaid, and of course, SSDI. So this is good to know too. Now, every state will have different investment options, and we're going to look at California's. And the earnings in your investments grow tax-free. That's also really good. It's interesting that no one has asked about eligibility, because usually by the time I get to eligibility, I've had several questions about, well, can I open up an ABLE account? So who can open up an ABLE account? You have to have been disabled before the age of 26. There is push, and there has been some push to increase the age to 46, but it hasn't happened. So 26 is the magic number. Let's say that I'm 50 years old and I find out about the ABLE program. And I see that one of the requirements is that I be disabled before the age of 26, and I was disabled at age 15. So I can open up an ABLE account if I meet the other criteria. I'm 50, but I was disabled before age 26. So I meet this criterion. Now, not only do I have to meet this criterion, I also have to either receive SSI or SSDI or self-certify. What does that mean? I should get a letter from a doctor that says that I have a physical and/or mental disability that results in marked and severe functional limitations that's expected to last at least 1 year. I just need to have the letter ready in case anyone asks for it. If I were to open up a CalABLE account, they wouldn't require the letter from me. The IRS may want it, or Social Security may want it, but I don't have to give anyone the letter unless I'm asked for the letter. Or if I don't self-certify, maybe my condition is in the list of compassionate allowances or the Blue Book listings. I'm going to stop sharing so I can show you what these look like and where you can go. And we're going to give you the links to the list of compassionate allowances and the Blue Book listings so that you can look up the information. And if your disability is there, you know, it meets the requirements under the list of compassionate allowances or the Blue Book listings, then you're in, right? Or you self-certify, or maybe you're on SSI or SSDI. Note that you don't have to, this program is for people, even for people who are not on SSI or not receiving any Social Security benefit, right? This is the great thing about it. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing to show you what the list of compassionate allowances looks like, and also the Blue Book. So Lonnie's going to share. So this is the Blue Book. It's called the Blue Book because if you get a paper copy of this, it's blue. And so there's an M on the left-hand column. You have adult listings of disability and childhood listings. So We're in the adult listings of disability, and as you can see, the disabilities are divided up into the different systems of disorders. So you've got digestive system and endocrine, skin disorders, blood disorders, etc. So neurological disorders. So you would open up your system and look to see if your disability is there, if your disability meets the severity that's required. So this is one way that you can show. And then the other one, and the same, there's a childhood listing, so you can do that. And by the way, children can also, through their parents or legal guardians, can open up ABLE accounts. And now we're going to look at this list of compassionate allowances. Don't worry, you're going to get the links to this. So this is the compassionate allowances section, and there's the list on the right-hand side. We have the list of compassionate allowances. So if your condition meets the list of compassionate allowances, you could look up their disabilities from A to Z. You can look up your disability, and if you meet the criteria for that disability, then your condition meets the listing of compassionate allowances. So thank you, Lonnie. So we'll give you the links. I want to stop right now to make sure we all understand what the eligibility criteria is. Do you have any questions? Do you need anything clarified?
And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. There are no questions in the chat, Maria.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on. Who owns the account? It's the person with the disability. And as I said before, you can only have one ABLE account. And if you want to roll over your 529 college savings plan into your ABLE account, you can. You're not going to be penalized. And of course, you can only put in $15,000 a year. So let's say I have $10,000 in my ABLE account and I want to roll over $10,000 from my 529 college savings plan. I won't be able to do that because that would be $20,000 in my ABLE account, and I can't do that. I can only do $15,000 a year. So I would only roll over for that year $5,000 from my 529 college savings plan. You can also put money from your pool trust or your special needs trust into your ABLE account. So under the federal legislation, who can open up an ABLE account? Obviously, the person with a disability, someone with power of attorney for that person, a conservator or legal guardian of that person. Then this is the order of priority, right? So first will be power of attorney, conservator, spouse, sibling, grandparent, parent of a child under 18 or legal guardian. Now, this is the federal legislation. California hasn't gotten that far. And when we look at California's program, it's not, the list is not as long as this. You really still have to have someone with a power of attorney, the person with a disability, a conservator, a legal guardian. If the sister's going to open up an ABLE account for the brother, she still has to have power of attorney. And this is, remember, power of attorney to deal with financial matters, conservator of the estate. If you're just conservator of the person, you don't have the authority to open up an ABLE account because you're not the conservator of the estate to deal with financial matters. So now you've got this money in your ABLE account. What can you spend it on? And this is really important. This is the definition of a qualified disability expense. So as long as what you want to spend it on meets the definition, then it should be okay. Now, I always say to people, oh, what if you're not quite sure if you can spend the money on what you want to spend it? You can always call the ABLE program where you have your ABLE account. For example, if you open it in California, you can call them and say, hey, I want to spend the money on this. Is this a qualified disability expense? And they'll give you the answer. I've done that for clients when I'm not quite sure. So, and they're really great with answering questions. So this is the definition. It's expenses for the person who's the owner of the ABLE account, who is the person with a disability, so that the expense should help maintain or improve their health, independence, or quality of life. This is really broad because there's so many things that you can spend the money on, such as, you know, you can spend it if you need to hire an attorney, you can spend it on that. You need a financial manager, you can spend the money on that. Vacations, all kinds of things related to health prevention and wellness. If you need equipment that you can't get through your health insurer or through the regional center or through CCS, whatever, you can get it, you can buy it through your ABLE plan. All kinds of training, support, employment, college, transportation. You can buy a car, modify a car, whatever it is you want. Food, housing, you know. And so in the right-hand side of this presentation, you've got links to the ABLE National Resource Center, where there's a lot of good questions about qualified disability expenses. And we have California's, if you go to the link below, you've got information on qualified disability expenses under the CalABLE program. It's just because the definition is so broad, you know, it's like you could spend it on so many things. Now, there are things that you can't spend your ABLE money on. You can't use it to gamble, to buy alcohol, anything illegal. You can't buy a gift for someone, right? Because the money is to be spent on the person who owns the ABLE account. And like I said, if you're not quite sure what if you could, you know, spend the money on a particular thing or service, then you should call the ABLE program, where you open up the ABLE account and ask them. Special needs trust. Now these trusts are established. So when someone has too many resources or too much income, that would disqualify the person from getting SSI and certain Medi-Cal programs. So people establish special needs trusts. A reason for doing that is to qualify for SSI and Medi-Cal, because if properly done, what's in the assets in the special needs trust will not be counted as resources for the person, for SSI and for Medi-Cal. You can have both a special needs trust, you can have an ABLE account. With an ABLE account, it costs very little to set up. California requires that you have your minimum investment be $25. To draw up a special needs trust can be very expensive. Pool trusts are a lot less expensive because it's a lot of people's money put together. And it's like a special needs trust, except it doesn't cost as much as a special needs trust. So those are pool trust. ABLE has the tax advantage status that the money in the ABLE account is tax-free, the earnings that you have in the ABLE account. With ABLE, the account holder has more control over the funds. With the special needs trust, you have a trustor who will decide how that money is spent, right? And with an ABLE account, you can open up an account at any age, so long as you meet the eligibility criteria. There's more information here if you're interested in ABLE accounts and special needs trusts or pool trusts, so you can look at that. Now, I'm going to stop to see if there are any questions, because now we're going to look at the CalABLE program and go into more detail.
I see no questions in the chat, Maria.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing because I want to go to the website. I want to show you what the CalABLE website looks like and where you would go to open up an account. So let's give it a moment. Thank you, Mary. So if you were to go to the CalABLE website, this is what you would find. You know, about CalABLE, who's eligible, plan benefits, what are qualified disability. Let's open that one up, Mary, just so people can see qualified disability expenses. They've got all kinds, and these are just examples of the kinds of things that you can spend the money on. All kinds of housing things, employment support, health prevention, gym class, right? Nutrition management, respite care, funeral and burial expenses, lots of things. Like I said, these are only examples. So we're going to go back to, and then we have saving and investment choices, which we're going to look at later. But if you scroll down on this page, and then there's a contact us, contact them. They're very, very helpful. And then actually there should be something here about signing up for a CalABLE. About Cal, yeah, this one here. So if you scroll, yeah, open an account. So let's hit that one. It'll tell you what you need. And then you hit the get started button. And then enroll now or register if you're already enrolled, because that's how you're going to look at your ABLE account. So see how it's really pretty easy to open up an ABLE account. Thank you, Mary. So we're going to go back to the presentation. Okay. So if you decide that you're interested in opening up an ABLE account in California, know that low fees, there are administrative fees for the investments, and we're, excuse me, we're going to go through them. Excuse me. Easy online enrollment process. Contributions can be made electronically or by check. There's a concept called e-gifting through CalABLE, and we're going to talk about that. And you can request a CalABLE prepaid Visa card that you can use to make purchases, and you can reload the card online too. To sign up, you're going to need your Social Security number. And if you are going to if you're going to have an authorized legal representative, this person will manage the account. If let's say I'm the person with a disability, but I want my mom to be the authorized legal representative, she's going to have to give her information to when the account opens, when we're opening up the account, and she's going to have it. She's the one who's going to manage the account for me. Like I said before, initial deposit of $25 into one of the investment options. If I want to link my bank account with my ABLE account, I'm going to have the routing information for my bank, right? So I can transfer money to and from my bank account and my CalABLE account. There's the link to open. When you open, you're going to create a user ID and a password. I don't know about you, but I do online banking. So when I go to when I go to Bank of America, they ask me for my user ID and my password. Same thing here. You can look at all of your statements online, or you can opt to get your statements in paper, but they will charge you for paper statements. I think it's $5 to $10 a year, but we'll see. I have that information later on. You're going to have to choose your investment options, and you're going to have information on that. And if you want to link your bank account, make sure you've got that information. And you can request a prepaid card. And this is what the CalABLE prepaid Visa card looks like, right here at the bottom. To add money to your CalABLE account, you're going to log on to your CalABLE account. You can transfer from your bank electronically to your ABLE account, or you can request that the CalABLE program send you a check. And that check, I think, is $5 every time you do that. So you might want to think about just linking it to your bank account. And there's this concept that I mentioned earlier about e-gifting. So if I have an ABLE account and I say to CalABLE, look, I want to send an e-gift message to my family, my friends, here's their contact information. And it's going to say, hey, everyone, I'm saving to, purchase a car. Can you help me by, contributing to my ABLE account? And the message will tell them how to do that. So, that's a way to do it. But at any time, anyone with my ABLE information can put money into my ABLE account. But this is the nice thing to have. If, for example, the holidays, you're really wanting to get something and you don't want people to give you gifts, you want them to give you money, let them put it in the ABLE account, because if they give you money directly and you're on SSI, you got to report that income. That's income to you. But if they put it in the ABLE account, it's not. And
And there are a couple of questions in the chat. Can we ask those questions now? So one of the questions is, can you open an ABLE account, I'm assuming, without a social security number? For example, will they be approved if they just have a tax ID number?
Yes, I looked that up recently. You could have a social security number or a tax ID number will work.
Great. And then the other question is, can you talk more about the prepaid card?
The prepaid card, well, you can use it to, let's say you go and you buy some exercise equipment, you can use the prepaid card. It's like a Visa prepaid card. You load the card. Let's say I load my prepaid Visa card. I electronically move $1,000 from my ABLE account into the prepaid Visa card. And then I use that card to make purchases. So I've got a couple of questions and answers from the CalABLE program about the prepaid Visa card. So you load your card by going on to your CalABLE account. And that's, easy to do. Can the prepaid card be used to set up as an automatic transfer for monthly expenses, such as rent or utility costs? No, but you can deposit or load funds from your ABLE account onto your CalABLE prepaid card and use the ABLE prepaid card to pay for qualified disability expenses, both online and in stores everywhere Visa cards are accepted.
Maria? So I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that if you are going to load money into your prepaid card, you should have an idea of what you're going to use it for, so you won't have the excess resources at the end of the month. Is that correct?
It doesn't matter. The money in your ABLE account, yeah. Well, the money in your ABLE account it's not going to be counted as a resource anyway. But if you transfer money, for example, from your ABLE account into your bank account to pay your rent, you've got to pay the rent that month. Otherwise, it's going to be counted as a resource, especially rent.
So if you leave that money, say you transfer, like you said, $1,000 into the prepaid card, whatever's in the prepaid card won't be counted as a resource?
It won't be counted as a
Okay,
resource.
got it. Thank you.
Does this mean withdrawals via transfer or loading on? Okay. There are no fees to load money onto the prepaid card. Other fees may apply. I think there's the monthly fee for a CalABLE prepaid card is $1.25 a month. So is the beneficiary allowed to access actual cash through the ABLE account or only allowed to use the card for itself for purchases? The prepaid card cannot be used at an ATM to withdraw cash. In order to access cash, the ACH withdrawal to a connected checking account or a check must be requested. So you can't use the prepaid card to take cash out of the ATM. It's to make purchases. Anything else?
That's all I see. Thank you, Maria.
If we're going to talk about investment options in a moment, but if you know, I don't know a lot about investments, and if I were to open up an ABLE account, I would want to know more about the investments that California is offering, what has historically been the earnings in these investments, and just generally learn more about, because 3 of these investments involve stocks and bonds. I'm terrible at that, you know, so you could go to this link here for more financial education, because you're going to want to know when you open your ABLE account what you're going to put your money, what investment choices you're going to use or you're going to put money in, right? How do you take money out of your ABLE account? Obviously, you can log in to CalABLE. You can withdraw money from your ABLE account electronically into your bank. For withdrawals, you can request a check, but every time you request a check, it's going to cost $5. And this is really important for you to know. CalABLE will not track or verify what you spend the money on. So what does that mean? You need to keep records of what you spent the money on in case Social Security or the IRS asks for that information. You don't have to go to you don't have to report what you spent the money on to anyone unless, and by anyone, I mean the CalABLE program, the IRS, Social Security, unless they ask you for it. So do keep records of what you spent the money on. That is really important to know. And like I said, if you're not quite sure whether something you want to purchase or a service you want to get would qualify as a qualified disability expense, call the program, ask them. So the investments in the CalABLE program are managed by a company called TIAA-CREF. They've been around for a long time. There are 4 investment options in California. One is kind of like what would be a checking account in a bank. And like I said, the other 3 are a mix of stocks and bonds and some other stuff. And we're going to look at that. There are fees for having these accounts, and we're going to look at that too. And you can transfer between the investments twice annually. So if you have money in a couple of investments and you want to move them to other investments or just one investment, you're allowed to do that twice a year. The 4 investment choices under CalABLE, and no, every state has their own investment choices. That's why if you're interested in opening up an ABLE account in another state that allows non-residents to open up accounts, you should look at their investment options. You should look at, you know, what it costs to have those accounts. But for California, we've got an FDIC insured portfolio. This is banks are also FDIC insured, meaning that the federal government will insure up to a certain amount of money should the bank go broke, so to speak. And I think the FDIC amount, protection amount now is $250,000. I remember the day when it used to be 100, but anyway, so this is, it's like an account, interest-bearing account. It's like I don't know how much you're earning in your bank account, but it could be like 0.01. It's nothing. So, but it's very safe, right? Very safe investment. Then we've got the conservative portfolio. It has 20% stocks, 55% bonds, and 25% of other things. Now, this conservative portfolio has been already selected. You don't choose the 20% of stocks that you want your money in, or the 55% bonds. It's already been established, and you just, you know, choose conservative portfolio if that's what you want. The moderate portfolio has 50% stocks, 45% bonds, and 5% of other things. Notice that the more stocks that you have in your account, the more riskier it is, right? And then you have the aggressive growth portfolio, where it's 80% stocks and 20% bonds. I'm going to stop right now to see if there are any questions about what I've said so far. Okay.
No questions, Maria, sorry.
Okay, so what are the fees? Let's see what this is all about. So CalABLE is going to charge me $37 a year. It's divided into 12 months for having an ABLE account. Investments will have fees, and we're going to look at them a little later. There's a state administrative fee. If you want paper statements, remember, all of your statements are available online, just like in a bank, right? But if you want a paper statement, it's $10 annually. If you have insufficient funds, you've used more money than is in your ABLE account, just like in a bank, you're going to be charged $20 for insufficient funds. Every time you want them to issue you a check from your ABLE account, it's going to be $5, and the prepaid Visa card, $1.25 a month. More information on prepaid Visa card you could see there. Now, what does it look like for these investments? So we've got the 4 different investments, and you've got $37 for the, oopsie daisy, for the annual maintenance fee. The FDIC at this time has no underlying investment fee, and the others have $2.70. We're talking about annual, right? $3 for the aggressive growth, $2.40 for the aggressive growth, $3 for the moderate. So at the end, and the state administrative fee. So at the end of the day, every year, the total annual fees are the ones you see here. And I can tell you that the benefit of having an ABLE account, especially for someone who is on SSI or Medi-Cal, where the resources count, far outweighs the fees that the program charges. So I want to talk about Medi-Cal recovery and CalABLE. Because we also get this question a lot, right? I hear that Medi-Cal will take your house and everything when you die. Well, that's not necessarily true. In order for Medi-Cal, it's called Medi-Cal recovery. And in order for Medi-Cal to take things away from you when you die, certain things have to happen. First of all, Medi-Cal can't file a claim directly on the ABLE account, but it may recover assets that have been transferred from the ABLE account to the estate. So what generally happens if I die and I left money in my ABLE account, and I had some qualified disability expenses, or the money in my ABLE account can go to pay my funeral expenses and my plot, so they can use that money for that purpose. Whatever money is left after paying any qualified disability expenses will go to my estate. My estate is made up of what I left, personal and real property of what my assets were. That's the estate. So in order for Medi-Cal to recover, I have to have died after the age at 55 or older. I have to have used certain, so Medi-Cal will not recover on all the services that you got, only on certain services. Those are home and community-based services, hospital-related services, prescription drug services, nursing facility services. And you have to have an estate that's required to go to formal probate. Right now, that means if your estate has a value of $166,250 or more, then your estate will go to probate. And you can't have left a spouse or a registered domestic partner, a child under 21 years old, or a disabled child of any age. So you see that, and I hear this a lot, oh, Medi-Cal will take everything, they're going to take it when you die. That's not necessarily true. All of these things have to happen. All the things you see here have to happen in order for Medi-Cal to recover. And even when they can't recover, you could apply for a hardship waiver, to say, no, please don't recover because whatever the situation is. So that's really important. And we're going to put on chat, there's a really great organization called the California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform. And they put together a publication on the Medi-Cal estate recovery rules. It's excellent. So we have it in English, they have it in Spanish, and they have it in Chinese. So if you have any questions about Medi-Cal and estate recovery, you need to look at that publication. If you have any concerns about leaving property to people after you die, especially maybe family members with disabilities, and you're concerned about the effect that may have on their public benefits, you need to be talking to what's called an estate planning attorney. They also have a name. They also are called elder law attorneys. We have a list of attorneys who do this kind of work, but there are all kinds of attorneys out there who do this kind of work. You don't have to go with the list, but I strongly urge you to talk to someone who has that expertise. Money so up to $100,000 in your ABLE account is exempt from money judgments. So let's say someone sues me in court, they get a judgment for $90,000 against me. They can't go after my ABLE account because it's less than 100,000. Now, these are California laws, it could be different in other states. Like I said before, when I die, money could be used from my ABLE account to pay for my burial expenses, maybe to pay for outstanding debts I had that were qualified disability expenses. And then the remainder of that money is transferred into my estate. There's a lot more information about this in these links, so you'll want to go to those for more information. Resources, the ABLE National Resource Center is a great resource for general information. CalABLE, of course. Their Disability Benefits 101 also has information on ABLE programs. And remember the POMs, the instructions to Social Security representatives about ABLE. Well, the POMs is right here. The live link is here for you to go to if you want more information. So I'm going to stop right now to see if there are any questions. Of the people who are here today, how many of you, if you want to put in chat, have more of an inclination to open up an ABLE account than you did prior to the training? I'd like to know if you're now thinking about it. You can put yes or no on chat.
You can also raise your hand.
Okay, Sir Michael, thank you. I think it's such an important program, and hopefully you've been able to get more of an understanding about this program. Yeah, so Karen, thank you. Yeah, but now, yeah, you could definitely give your clients more information. I think there hasn't been as much of a signing. The CalABLE program is underutilized. There's a push to get people on the program, and I think a lot of it has to do with understanding how this program works, right? And so, yes, there are limits. There are limits if you're on SSI as to how much money you could have in total, and of course, qualified disability expenses. But remember, the definition is so broad. It could involve a lot of things that you can spend the money on.
And Maria, like you said earlier, I mean, it's such a new program and it's very underutilized, but I think that like in the situation that you mentioned earlier, there may be, something that like a roadblock when you have the CalABLE where you don't know what to do, and we may not have the answer, but like Maria said, she can always reach out to people to find out the answer to the question. Like in the situation where you you had the consumer contact their congressperson.
Right. Any other questions or comments? Is anyone on who has already opened up an ABLE account? And if so, how did it go? Was it easy? Has it been easy to spend the money on qualified disability expenses? Okay, I don't see.
Hi, this
Hi.
is Cindy. Can I ask a clarifying question again?
Sure.
Back to the question that I had asked earlier regarding reporting to SSI.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that clients have to report to SSI. So I was just curious. So once they report to SSI and their income is over the $2,000 limit, wouldn't SSI, like they do their calculations and they deduct some funding, and then after that, I guess the money gets deposited into the CalABLE account, and then whatever gets deposited doesn't get counted anymore?
Okay.
Or how does that work?
So the way that it works is you cannot use an ABLE account to put income so that it doesn't count. So for example, let's say that this month I get $500 from my mom. She gives me $500. That is income. And I have to report that to SSI because it's going to affect my SSI amount for this month, although the effect won't come into play until months down the line, 2 months down the line, because what you report to SSI in 1 month doesn't get acted on until 2 months later. So anyway, so I have to report the $500 that my mom gave me. Let's say I put it into my bank account. And the following month, December, I now have over $2,000 in my bank account because I included the $500. I haven't spent it. I'll be over-resourced. I won't be eligible for SSI for that month. However, if I took that $500 and I put it into my CalABLE account, it will not count as a resource in December. So if I had left it in my bank account, it would have counted as a resource. But because I put it into my CalABLE account, it's not going to be counted as a resource. That's the beauty of the ABLE account. And I can have more than $2,000 in my ABLE account. As a matter of fact, I can have up to $100,000 in my ABLE account and it not affect my SSI. Now, yes, you do report to SSI that you opened up an ABLE account, but they're going to know because CalABLE is going to communicate that information to Social Security. But you don't have to tell, communicate to anyone what you spent the money on. Now, Social Security or SSI or IRS may ask you for, an accounting of what you spent the money on. And CalABLE is providing information to Social Security as to how much money came out of the account. And, so they're doing their thing on their end. But did that explain it?
Yeah, so I think I'm kind of understanding it better now. So as long as the money gets deposited into the CalABLE account and SSI has information that it's been deposited into that account, then they won't ask any questions and they won't deduct any money.
Right. So long as you put the ABLE account, the money into the ABLE account in the month you got it, then it's not a resource the following month. It would be a resource if you kept it in your bank account.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Anyone else have any questions? How can we get a copy of all the links that were shown? So the links on the PowerPoint you're going to have, and the links that are on chat, we're going to provide them to Helen, and Helen will provide them to you. That one link on the Medi-Cal estate recovery rules are really good. Is really good because that's, people are really concerned about that and sometimes may not apply for Medi-Cal because they're afraid that Medi-Cal is going to take everything away when they die if they got Medi-Cal, and it's not the case. So it's really important for people to understand what the Medi-Cal estate recovery rules are. Anything else, Mary?
There is
Oh, here we go. Yeah, I
from
see.
Elizabeth.
So
I'm
I'm
an ACRC service coordinator and have assisted at least 6 families to open a CalABLE account for their disabled relatives. Due to COVID, getting POAs hasn't been logistically possible, so the accounts were opened by the relative as if they were the client. This has worked good so far, except in one case in which the account was opened in January and the client passed away in April. The family had to jump through hoops to be recognized as authorized legal rep and are still waiting to be able to withdraw the funds.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. So what's important there is that when you open up an account or you want to, if later you want an authorized legal representative to do that, right? If that's what the beneficiary wants, an authorized legal rep. Sometimes they're conserved, right? And the conservator can be the authorized legal representative. So it's doing it in the front end and not in the back, right? To make sure that there aren't problems down the line.
Maria, there's a question here from Brenda. It says our clients can contribute up to $12,000 to their CalABLE account from their employment income, correct?
It depends, and let's go to that slide so that we can. Okay, so if it only you can contribute up to $12,760 more if you are employed and you don't participate in your employer's retirement savings program. You can save, in addition to the $15,000 a year, the lesser of the amount equal to the annual gross salary, or $12,760. So in my case, if I have a CalABLE account and I don't participate in my employer's retirement plan, and the second one applies, the $12,760, I can put into my CalABLE account up to $27,760 for this year.
Thank you, Maria.
Mm-hmm.
Brenda, I hope that answered your question. You said thank you, Maria.
Oh, you're welcome. And one way that I communicate with CalABLE is I write to them. You have the ability to send questions to them, and they send me back the answers. Why do I do that rather than talking to them? Because I have a paper trail, right? Should something come up down the line, and they question what I did, I have a paper trail to say, you guys told me that this is what I could do, right? That's what I do. So especially like with a qualified disability expense, write to them and say, hey, I'm thinking about spending it on this. Is this qualified disability expense? And they'll write back to you. Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, thank you so much for your questions and participation, and share the information with your clients. This is really important. It's especially for people who are on SSI or Medi-Cal, where resources are counted. It's so important. It opens up so many possibilities for them, right? They're no longer constrained by the $2,000 resource limit or $3,000 for a couple, and they can have more money in their ABLE account so that they can spend it on things that will improve the quality of life, which is really what it's about. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
Mary.
Thank you, Maria, Mary, and Mom.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful day.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.